True Lies Episode 1, I came in thinking that there was a chance that this series could be good because it was written by Matt Nix, the guy who wrote the series Burn Notice, and Burn Notice had a lot good about it, so I had some hope going in, and I don't know what to say. The hope paid off. Kind of. Episode 1 was not that bad. On the first view at least. This review was originally more positive than it has subsequently turned out to be, because it's another one of those shows that gets worse the more you think about it. And I had to watch this episode a few times for the review, and sadly it gets worse with repeated viewings. So how would I rate it now? Average? Well, it depends on how we're defining average. Stood next to Velma and Witcher Blood Origins, it is watchable. It's good in comparison, just by virtue of not being completely awful. But I still think that IMDb has it far wrong. The series is currently rated higher than the 1994 movie, and in truth, it isn't nearly as good. Some of that's hard to avoid because I don't think the series had the budget that the movie did. The 1994 film had a budget in excess of $100 million. There does not seem to be the money in this series to pay for a helicopter or a motorbike chase or Jamie Lee Curtis. But with these remakes, it's hard to justify a remake that makes the story worse than the original, because all they had to do was copy True Lies the film to have a better product, and they couldn't even do that. And that's why I harp on about bad remakes. A bad remake of something good is worse to me than an equally bad original work, because all a remake has to do to be good is copy what the good thing did. What I didn't know was that the original True Lies was already a copy of a French spy comedy called La Totale. So this is a copy of the 1994 film True Lies that was already a copy of a 1991 French film, and somewhere in there they forgot that this was supposed to be a spy comedy. Don't get me wrong, this series has the usual updated for a modern audience thing. I should have known when I saw James Cameron's name on the producers list. So expect some very weird race and gender swaps in the cast, as well as heavy-handed feminism and talk of toxic masculinity.
Do you need a hug?
Aw, kisses? Please don't be mad at me. Seriously?
Let's put a hold on the toxic masculinity. We're behind schedule.
And it needed that, like a person needs another hole in the head. They just can't help themselves, they're obsessed. The Tom Arnold role of Gib from the 1994 film is being played by this guy, Omar Benson Miller, and he's difficult to buy as a spy. He's not in great shape and in several scenes has visible trouble walking. The idea of this guy being a field operative, yet no chance. The Charlton Heston role of Trilby from the 1994 film is now quite bizarrely being played by Ellen Griswold from National Lampoons. Ginger Gonzaga is playing the Jamie Lee Curtis role just nowhere near as well, and now the couple have two kids instead of one, who are now both half Mexican. Who knows why they've made these casting changes? Maybe those were just the best actors they could find for the roles, but instead of Ginger Gonzaga, I wish Eliza Dushku was in it. In fact, that would have been great. She played the daughter in the 1994 film. It would have been poetic for her now to be playing the mother in the remake, but I'm not sure she's even acting anymore. And that's a shame, because Eliza Dushku in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, yeah, just damn. Man, that show had some charming women in it. And frankly, I don't even want to get into my thoughts on Vampire Willow from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, as it would probably get me banned from YouTube. An unusual choice? Maybe. But I personally was always kind of attracted to Faith, Vampire Willow and Miss Calendar. Miss Calendar. But there are more reasons, it transpires, why Eliza Dushku probably isn't coming back for True Lies. So thanks Hollywood for ruining my semi-faux horn dog routine, because according to her, she was abused while filming the original True Lies by a stunt coordinator from the film when she was aged 12. But luckily, it all got better for her after that. Then she went to work for a long period of time with Joss Whedon. And just when I think Hollywood can't get any lower in my estimations, I read what Eliza Dushku is claiming happened to her during her acting career. This series is also far more feminist than the original film, sadly in all the wrong ways and none of the good ones. Ginger Gonzaga is almost immediately pitching in to help her spy husband, despite canonically being a school teacher, and it makes a lot less sense than what happened in the original. She has skills in this that maybe she shouldn't as a teacher. At one point, she has her hands cuffed behind her back, and she immobilises a guard by crushing him with her thighs, and the justification for this in the show is that she does yoga. I'm serious, that's what they go with. How would I have done this differently? I would have had her maybe bring her hands to the front of her body, grab a chair and hit the guard over the back of the head with it. That would be a normal way for a school teacher to act in that scenario. Or what they did in the 1994 film, have her knee a guy in the nuts or bite someone. That's normal for a secretary or a teacher. Not out of nowhere to start fighting like the assassin Nina Williams from Tekken. And worst of all is that I don't think that this kind of feminism is even good for the women that it purports to want to help. Because what message should young women be getting? Should it be that even if they lack experience or don't know what they're doing, they'll be perfect anyway? Do we want that message? Or do we want the message from the original film? That sometimes you may find yourself in a situation that you're not used to. And although you may be scared, you can be brave. And you can learn and you can improvise. And even an ordinary person can become a hero. This series sadly smacks of Rey Skywalker again, with the idea that women can be perfect in any situation with no effort whatsoever. And as a result, I would say that this series is actually less feminist than the stuff that James Cameron was making in the 80s. So it's not perfect, but what is? I'll get to what's good and bad about it, but there will be spoilers. The episode opens up much like the 1994 Schwarzenegger film, with Harry Tasker, the husband, working as a spy while pretending to be a businessman to his wife. Meanwhile, his wife is getting bored with her life and thinks that his regular trips for work are happening far too often, and she's starting to think that he's having an affair. The lead guy, Steve Howey, playing the Schwarzenegger role, is in some ways worse than Arnie and in some ways better. He looks more like a spy than Arnie does, because Arnie is a bit on the conspicuous side to be a spy, but sadly he also doesn't do a very good fight scene. Steve Howey tends to pull his punches too much and it's far too noticeable. Ginger Gonzaga is also a bit of a surprise for me, because she's not so annoying in this as she is in She-Hulk that I'm tempted to claw my own eyes and ears out of my head. But the IMDb page is telling. The male lead is in 9 episodes out of the 13. Ginger Gonzaga is in all 13, and that suggests strongly to me that Harry's role in True Lies has been greatly diminished in favour of his wife in this series. Ergo, I smell another bait and switch. Harry is off with his team, trying to capture an arms dealer while his wife is working as a teacher, looking after the kids, doing yoga and breaking the speed limit in a minivan just to break up the monotony and generate some excitement. This all changes when Harry, just having got back from a trip, has to go again right away. Because before they captured the arms dealer, he'd already sold something dangerous to someone very dangerous. And this is the breaking point for his wife, who then confronts him about the suspected affair, and he can think of no other way out than to offer to take her to Paris, where he's going with the team to try and get the dangerous thing back. So Harry's trying to juggle 2 things at once, the mission and the holiday with his wife, and he screws it up. He gets the mission done, but doesn't notice afterwards that he is being followed. So he and his wife go to a restaurant where they're attacked by armed men, and after a fight, him and his wife get captured. They are then taken for interrogation, and as they're being interrogated, the wife Helen finds out that her husband is a spy instead of the computer salesman that he's been claiming to be for the last 20 or so years. And this is all a bit perfunctory. They maybe should have saved this for a few episodes down the line. And they've also cut the subplot with Bill Paxton hitting on the bored wife by pretending to be a spy when he's actually a used car salesman. Meanwhile, Helen is bored and excited by the fake spy, when she is in actuality married to a real spy. That was the joke. That was the point of the comedy. They've remade a comedy and cut all of the comedy out of it. And what follows is maybe the best part of the 1994 film. A great bit of acting from Jamie Lee Curtis that they just cut from this series. She explains why she was tempted by the fake spy. She wanted to feel like her life meant something. She felt like she was running out of time. She wanted to do something and feel alive before it was too late. It was a beautiful human moment. And then her husband loves her so much that he pretends to be someone else and gives her a spy mission. He gives her the adventure that she was craving, and she summons up her courage and does it. Because she loves her husband and daughter. It was a very sweet story, but they took the best part of the story in this series and cut it out. That's why I'm so frustrated. And in the series, the wife Helen is kind of the one to get them out of the hostage situation, using her language skills from being a language teacher and fighting abilities somehow gleaned from yoga and aerobics. They get out as Harry's team arrives and the bad guys are all captured. In episode 1, Helen is now taken to be trained as a spy too, and this is no surprise coming from a James Cameron project, because this is a carbon copy of Terminator Dark Fate again. Hollywood writing just cannot show a woman as vulnerable, and it's not relatable at all. At some point we're all vulnerable. Even if it would be entirely logical for the woman in the plot to be vulnerable, even if it be the most natural thing in the world. She's a school teacher being shot at. Of course she'd be scared. Of course she'd be vulnerable, but they can't. Their ideology simply won't let them do it, and that's another reason why I'm so frustrated. They made something that's okay when all they had to do was copy the movie, and it would have been great. That's right, he's been a spy for 20 years and is thought of as one of the best in the business according to the canon of the show. His wife is a language teacher in a school, and the first spying situation she's put in with him, she saves him. She's a better spy than he is, with no training and no experience. That is how much they want to push a woman to the forefront in this show. They will do it even if it makes no sense at all in plot terms. Even if it contradicts the rest of their own story, they just cannot stand a male hero.
Those look good. A big salty clam would sure go great with this heat.